Welcome to Susie's Enchanted Crossroads, a podcast that helps you navigate your journey through the crossroads. I'm Susie, and together we will be taking a deeper look into witchcraft and spirituality. So settle in, and let's get this episode going. Hello, gorgeous soul. Welcome back. I am armed with my coffee in one of my favorite mugs. I love mugs. I feel like when you connect with your mug, either by what it looks like, the artwork on it, what it says. So on mine, it says fueled by crystals and coffee. So, yes. And oh my goodness, as I wipe a tear from my eye, I am on summer break. Ooh, baby, when I tell you, the last month is always so rough. I feel like everyone is over it. State testing is over. Everyone is unwinding. It's just, it can be like this just chaos. And it really didn't get bad for me personally. Um, there was just some slight annoyances where you just take a step back and it's like, are we really doing this on the last few weeks of school, the last 2 weeks of school, the last week, the last day? It's like, mm-mm. But you know what? To my fellow educators out there, you made it. And if you're not on break yet, my heart goes out to you. You're almost there. You got it. You got this push. Okay. And if you're listening to this in real time on Wednesday, it is the first Wednesday of the month. If you are an educator, you will not want to miss this. Okay. I offer community Reiki via Zoom in the evening in the comfort of your own space. Okay. 40-minute time just for you to unwind, ease that anxiety, ease that wheel in the brain that just keeps going and going and going and going. Release that stress, cleanse that energy out. You know, the energy where you're holding on to other people's things, you know? And when I say that, I don't mean it to be like, oh, you're holding on to everyone's negative stuff like the evil eye and breakup sadness and, talking about work stress. Sometimes you hold on to people's energy even when they're like overly excited or they're like very, very chit-chatty and they're attracted to you and your energy, right? And some people don't know it, as I've said in previous episodes on energy vampires. They don't know that they're sucking your energy from you. And if you don't regularly ground and protect your energy, yeah, by the end of the month, you can feel very, very drained, even though, that nothing quote unquote bad happened or wasn't overly stressful. Sometimes it's just a lot of energy all the time, especially if you work or you're around a lot of different people. So, tonight, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time is when I host Community Reiki. You don't have to have your camera on. We don't do a share out. I guide you through a beautiful guided meditation. I've had outstanding reviews and testimonials. This is for me to refill your cup, gorgeous soul, and you are deserving of that. So you can click the links in the show notes. You can find it in all of my socials. Hit me up if you need it. You can email me. I send you the Zoom link. It's at a very affordable price because this is not a one-on-one. It's, open to the community. But I want to see you there. I want to see you do something for yourself. And as I segue into what we're talking about the moon today. Yeah. I know I've been teasing it here and there, like, we're talking about the moon. And I'm not just going to tell you, oh, the new moon is for this, the waxing moon for that, full moon for this, here are the spells. I can get to that, but I want to get to the why. Why the moon? And if you follow me for a while, I always post a video, right? A story, if you will, on my Instagram. I go on my threads, I hit it up on TikTok, and I do a little reminder, make your moon water. It's the full moon in this sign, or it's the new moon in this sign. And don't forget there's other phases in the moon you can utilize. Why? Why is that important? Now, on the very, very basic, we can hone in and use that newer full moon energy if we're trying to either release something or call something in, especially in whatever sign the moon is in, because the moon is constantly changing in different zodiac signs. And you can really connect to the moon when it happens to be in your zodiac sign, or that zodiac sign is in a prevalent place in your birth chart. So you can feel that connection to the moon. But I did want to get into why the moon. Because I feel like we see the moon, it's like, ooh, the moon, and, hell at the moon, bonfire under the moon, dance naked under the moon, pull cards. You just feel that pull. Look at how gorgeous. And we just feel this magic with the moon. I'm taking my sip of coffee. And for myself, I've always had this beautiful pull towards the moon since I was young. And my mom would talk to me about the moon. And we all feel that pull because the moon, she's our celestial anchor. And going on the science of it, her gravity stabilizes the Earth on its axis. But if we look at the moon, we can know that she is both predictable but wild. And when we look up at the moon, we feel that energy, and not just the energy from the moon, but what it moves us within, our energy, our emotion. It's almost like a mirror. And when I think of the moon, right, and she represents our interior, the unseen. And it's even been linked to our psychic abilities. But as far as the moon being a mirror, I thought, yeah, that makes sense because, as you know, the moon has power over our water, hence why we make moon water. And when you look into water, right, if it's nice and clear, if you peek into a stream, you can kind of see your reflection in it. When the moon shines into the water, there's a reflection there. So it's really that reflection of yourself, your true self, your inner self. The moon represents our subconscious. And when we decide to program our subconscious to change our beliefs change, almost like the phases with the moon. And that's why we feel this gravitational pull towards the moon. So we know that the moon herself is our closest celestial neighbor. We know that the same side of the moon faces Earth. We know that the moon completes one orbit around the Earth approximately 27 to 29 days. There are times when the moon looks farther away and when it looks closer to the Earth. And I chuckle because I think of my husband because he's like, I don't know, babe. That moon looks like it's getting closer and closer every month. And sometimes, yes, that's when we have our super moons, right? So the moon's orbit rotates counterclockwise. And at times it's quite close to us, and other times it's further away. That's how we get our super moons. And then they're called micro moons, but it's just, one month the moon is going to look full and like huge. And then the next month it'll appear like very distant. But once upon a time, we didn't have the Gregorian calendar, we had lunar calendars. And we planted, based on the moon phases. And then later in history, when, what happens with things that we fear that we don't understand, we start to quote unquote demonize it. And then I'm like the patriarchal system, start to say, like, oh, the full moon. How many times have you heard, like, oh, the evil things come out with the full moon? We have werewolves and witches on their brooms and it's evil and stay indoors. Well, mainly because when we would see the full moon, something ignites within us. It's uh, almost like that feral feeling. Like you need to go out. You need to gaze up upon the moon. It's almost like that introspection at that time. And trust me, we use that phrase even today, 2025. If you work in the school system, if you work in the medical field, I've even remembered watching Hocus Pocus, the first movie, when Danny's like, please take me out trick or treating. I can't go out by myself. The full moon, the weirdos are out. And we know it, right? If you work in the medical field or as a teacher, it's like, oh my God, it must be a full moon because why is everyone acting all crazy? Because we're really trying to figure things out as humans, ourselves, as far as like what we show our mask to the world and what we keep internally, which I'll touch on. Let's stick to the sciencey stuff. We know that the moon is made up of a variety of different matter. There's no atmosphere on the moon. Although I did read up that there are intermittent moonquakes, which I was like, oh, I don't know if I knew that, or if that was something I just locked away. But we as humans have really projected a lot of stories and folklore into the moon. There's just so much that we just feel drawn to. And that's where I'm like, yes, I love the moon. Because what are we looking at when we look up at the sky, right? We see the moon. We know that the moon doesn't emit its own light. It's a reflection from the sun from across the universe. And the moon, whenever it appears to be pink or red, what other color, like bright white or like silver, that's just due to the way the light changes that's traveling in our atmosphere. And I always thought that's so freaking cool. I mean, think of the vastness of the universe, and we're here on Earth, and I always think back to the old movie Men in Black. And I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was the first one, but there's a scene where I think Tommy Lee Jones Kay opens up the locker, and then he's like telling Will Smith, like, we're basically just like a little speck of, look at all this. And you just see the vastness, like another world, another universe. And then the camera starts panning out and panning out and panning out and panning out. And it's like, it really just put things into perspective there. We know that the moon is responsible for the gravitational force of water on our planet. It affects the tides, people, not just oceans. I know we think like, oh, the oceans, but not just the oceans, but the rivers and the lakes that you. TLC, anybody else? But rivers, lakes. That's why we are made up of whatever percent of water, right? We're mostly water. So we can feel that energy of the moon moving us. It's like this force that the moon has is not just the water on the earth, but like in the earth. So think about If we are, here it is in my notes. People are are made up of 60% water. I was about to say 70. 60% water. So think of the moon influencing all the water within you. And that's why I love making moon water. Moon water is like my jam, y'all. I've made solar water, but something about the moon, I just feel that pull to always make moon water. And I've said this already, but maybe I should preface it. Moon water is basically filling a vessel with clean water and putting it in an area where, you could put it on a windowsill, you can put it outside as like, as long as it's covered so you don't get debris or anything in there. And that water is charged with that moon energy. Does the moon need to see your jar like, oh, there it is. There's that jar of water. I'm going to put, no, obviously not. If she can do the tides of the ocean, lakes, and rivers, you setting your water just with the intention of it being filled with that moon magic energy, that's good. And also, it doesn't just have to be water. I have charged my coffee with water, with water, with the moon. So, when you're thinking about making moon water, I thought, why stop at water? I this is my leftover coffee. I'm gonna put it in a mason jar. I'm gonna set it out with my intention, and I want that moon energy in this coffee. Then I go and I put it in my fridge, and then I have my iced coffee for the next day. I've seen a video on TikTok, I'm sure you've seen it, where someone left out their jar of pickles. Hell yeah, protection magic if I ever did see it. Charged by that moon energy. Anyways, I digress. Just some asides for you. It doesn't need to be all night, right? It doesn't have to, especially when you're trying to do your magic on the down low. Just the intention, just you acknowledging the moon and thanking the moon for this energy that it's pouring into your water, your tea, your pickle jar, your coffee, whatever, right? Um, Even as you cleanse tarot decks and cleanse and charge your divination tools and your crystals, it doesn't just stop at water. It's just it just has effects on the tides. And not to say that the sun doesn't also, but the moon is closer to the earth. So it has more of an influence and it's greater. I love this. So let me change gears here from water and a lot of the sciencey stuff. Know that the moon holds so many stories. And I want you to look up at the moon and I want you to know that your ancestors, our ancestors, also peered up into the sky looking at the moon. So the moon throughout ages, okay? The moon's powers have always been revered. And like I said, feared, right? When we start to talk about colonialism and patriarchal systems. But that's because there's so much energy and that connection to the moon. For years, and I'm talking just through the ages, the moon has been there, right, in correspondence to the Earth's fertility, our, as women, fertility. And we look at the phases that the moon goes through, and that's how women that bleed would look at the moon and see when her cycle started and really go in sync with the moon phases. That connectivity, it's ancient. So when you're feeling on this journey, because it can feel very lonely, even when you're not alone, because you're figuring things out on your path. And sometimes it's as easy as just connecting with nature around you. And I know it's not very, I, I don't know why I'm thinking bougie right away. I know it's not very like, oh my gosh, Pinterest worthy at times. But remember that connecting this craft, your practice is your practice, and you have to first connect with yourself. Now, if you're just doing things for clout, for the views, for the likes, it's not going to hit the same way because you're not using it to for you. You're using it as a tool and really feeding into like the patriarchy, right? The consumerism just to make a buck. That's way into your masculine. Mm-mm. When you're stepping into this, into your craft, into your spirituality, and you don't have a lot of money, you don't know where to start, maybe you're being chastised for it. The first and foremost thing you can do is just connect with yourself, learn how to ground, cleanse, protect your energy, and connect with what's around you. And I get it. I live in the desert. Sometimes it's hard to connect with any piece of nature, right? Because when you look at social media, you see everyone like, oh, look at the greenery and the trees and the forest. Like, yeah, that would be great. But we all live in different parts of the earth. But we're all looking up at the same moon. As we all look up to the sky, we see the same moon. That is how we connect. We're connecting with our ancestors because those before us were looking up to the sky and seeing that moon. We look up at the same moon and wonder. And we get moved like, what is the meaning of life? And we see it with mystery. And, what is my purpose? What is love, even? That moon has been watching over not just you, but your mom, your grandma, your great great grandma, your great 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 ancestors. Ancestors whose names you don't know and may never know. And when I talk to my clients about, I don't know where to start, I was adopted, or, my family doesn't like to talk about our lineage, or I don't even want to talk about my family because my ancestors were a piece of shit, you still have the mysteries of the moon and ancestors that way predate yours. I mean, you can go back and you can go really, really deep. That ancestral connection. And when I was taking notes, I really liked this quote from a book I was reading. Understand that your ancestors sat under the same moon and cried just like we have. A simulation may have wiped out some or all of our ancestral connections, access to our mother tongues, our ancient rituals, certain recipes. Slavery and colonization have wiped out bloodlines and magical traditions, folk medicine, and languages. The moon is the one tool that we have to discover more about our ancestry and to uncover traditions, rituals, and other practices our ancestors may have utilized. Tell me that is not beautiful. Tell me that even when you feel lost, you can't just look up at the moon and cry. Look up at the moon in wonder. And yes, it's very, very sad that a lot of our traditions, our, like it said, our mother tongue, our rituals, our practice medicine has been lost. But as you go on this journey, as we all of you listening go on this journey, don't forget that yes, your practice is your own, but it's in your DNA. And sometimes it just takes for you to sit and I don't want you to think of, oh, I can't sit in stillness. Nothing comes. I'm very fidgety. Remember, meditation isn't about sitting still for 60 minutes and allowing all these downloads to come in because that's not for everybody. Sometimes you need to be an active meditator, and that is still meditation. It's when you're starting to connect with things around you, that's the meditation. So, as you're going into this practice, maybe you're just starting, maybe you've been practicing for years now. As you are going, when something comes up for you, allow it in without judgment or criticism. That could be your ancestors speaking to you. Well, I've never done my tradition this way, but now I want to add this one thing. I wonder what that came from. I do it all the time in the kitchen. I have this recipe, it's not passed down from generations or family even, but I add a little bit of my own, maybe spices, or I cook it in a different order or whatever. And I take note of that because my ancestors are in my DNA. I have the knowledge. It just takes a little bit of research, maybe on your part. If you've done any type of, what is it, the ancestral, or what is it, the DNA where you swab your mouth and you send it off and you bring it in? Um, like what is it? The 21andMe, 20, I don't know, whatever. If you've done that, right? Because I remember it was all the rage, you did it, whatever. I know people are like, oh, I would never have the government have any part of me, as if that's ever stopped the government. Give me a break. You don't know. Anyway, I won't go into that conspiracy theory. But if you have done that or you're thinking of doing it, um, obviously reputable sources. But when you get that back, start deep diving. Especially where were you born? Where were you raised? What foods did you eat? That place, what was it before everything was colonized? How can you have that connection? Remember that your ancestors live inside us. Like I said, it's our DNA. It's your talents, my gorgeous soul. It's your in your bones. And for me, like I think of like hair because hair is a big deal in you know my traditions and all of that. And all that connection we have when we look up at the moon. I get so I went a little off tangent there with ancestry because that's what really drives me in this practice. As I move forward, before I get into the moon phases, I'm getting there. But I do want to touch back on how the moon is our water. And when we're looking within ourselves, as much of water as we are made up of, when I'm talking about water, it's obviously those emotions, right? Because water is a forceful power. We cannot live without it. It's it also holds our memories. Have you heard that? What is that from Frozen? Water holds memories. It's our flow, our intuition, our spirituality. So when we think about ancient times, priestesses would build moon shrines by these healing waters, streams, rivers, lakes, and that was like their sacred water, those sacred healing waters. And we, as people, right, especially now, 2025, a lot of times the patriarchy wants us to basically swallow our emotions. And how has that ever helped us? Think about it. Doesn't. When we ignore our emotions, we are unbalanced. And our actions are are not really of our own. It's that fear base. So below the surface lies our subconscious, and it's driving the patterns that we tend to repeat, our old belief systems. Some things that we've constructed on our own that our cute brain does to keep us safe. Other times it's our ego. But when you're ready, you can do the transformative work. You can use the moon for that watery shadow work. Um, that's the step in that direction. It reminds me of the moon card in tarot, right? The unknown, the unseen, the shadows. But it's that wanting to tap into our intuition, tapping into ourselves. And when I say that, the link of the moon is that divine feminine, I'm not just speaking to those that are women, right? Or um what's the word I'm looking for? Those that identify as feminine. Because no, that's not what that means. The divine feminine is not one gender. Okay? This I'm speaking to you as a human being. You listening. So whether you are a woman, a male, non-binary, this this divine feminine is a constant evolution, right? The moon affects us no matter what body parts we have. Just saying. We are all made up of water. We all hold shadows, we all hold light. Okay? All of the and this is where I'm going to read this excerpt from this book. All of us feel the moon, relish in her silvery glow on our skin, carry her songs inside us. When I speak about the moon being feminine or femme is beyond gender, I'm referring to an energy, a quality, a philosophy, a relational structure that values mutual care, aid, safety, and non hierarchical and non violent interactions. Period. We all have, what is it, yin and yang. We all have masculine and feminine energy. We need that as a delicate balance within ourselves. We just do. And I felt that was important as we are all looking up to the moon as guidance because this isn't just those that are women or identify as. This is for everyone as human beings. All right, let's get into the different phases of the moon. And as I was doing research, I found this very interesting. So, in Western astronomy, okay, there are 8 distinct phases of the moon, and I'm sure you've all seen it, photos of it. There's always a bunch of posters and pictures, right, that people take of the phases of the moon. However, Hawaiians observe Hawaiians observe approximately 30 days of the lunar calendar, and with the understanding of each day, with 30 different moon names that are divided into 3 10-day periods. I was like, what? That is freaking cool. So, that's I would love to hear if wherever you're listening in the different parts of the world, how you look at the moon, or do you do it like the Hawaiians, 30 days? Um, or are you doing the 8 phases here? All right, here we go. The nitty-gritty, right? So the first day of the lunar cycle for many people, for the majority, is the new moon, right? It's still the dark moon. There's no illumination. We are at 0%. So this phase is for planting seeds, tending to the underground. These are your intentions. What else? Renewal, recharging, hope, new cycles. So this is like new things that you are planting to move forward on. Okay? Because you are going to be going from this darkness and moving into the full moon to full brightness, full energy. Okay. So if you think of planting the seed, when you put the seed in the soil, it's dark in there. It's dark in the soil, right? But when that seed starts to grow and the plant comes out, that it's pushing through the darkness and into the light. Then we have the waxing crescent. The waxing crescent is about between 1% and 49% illuminated. So this is correspondent to beginnings, optimism, habits, taking action, like we are going forward. So you planted the seed, and now instead of just doing nothing, you are actually starting the process. You are moving forward with whatever it is that you set as your intention or your manifestation or whatever it is, right? Your recharge. Next, we have the first quarter. So the first quarter moon is 50% illuminated. That's when it looks like it's cut in half, right? Um, and those themes are technically the first quarter since it's a halfway mark of the lunar cycle. This is a phase to um, have really see where you have balance, or maybe you're not having enough balance. This is where you are overcoming anything that is maybe blocking you, hurdles. Maybe this is just that grit. Like, all right, we're hitting this halfway point, and you're just like, oh my God, why am I not there yet? Right? Because we're all impatient. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I know it's not me. And you're really pushing forward, pushing forward on that action that you want. And also if you're setting a boundary, because remember, if you're setting a boundary and people are used to treating you, talking to you, whatever, acting a certain way around you, and then you're changing the boundaries, mainly people don't like that. So they're gonna like push those boundaries. This is your push to keep moving forward, to keep setting those things in place. Waxing gibbous. The waxing gibbous is between, 51% to oh, I can't read this. Did I put 99% illuminated? Maybe. But this phase is about healing. This is energy, luck, abundance, expansion, and growth. Yes, yeah. So this is about your 51 to 99% illuminated. So you're almost there. This is your growth. This is your expansion. This is like, all right, this is almost to my achievement. We are still taking care of ourselves. This is self-care. This is sensuality. Okay. And then we have the full moon. Ah, the full moon in all its glory. This is 100% illuminated. So when we see the full moon, when you're doing any kind of work, I know people, it just the moon's going to hit you different every single time. You may feel very energized, you may feel very drained, but remember that energy is, 3 days before and 3 days after, you can still utilize this full moon energy. Okay. But this is your celebration. This is blooming. This is literally the embodiment of what you wanted. This is also emotional releases and emotional information. So, this is a good time to do that intuitive work again, some divination, ancestry work. This is any efforts that where you need maybe that magical boost. What did you plant at the new moon, and how did you bring it in with this full moon that it's illuminated, there's light everywhere, it's brightness. This is a good time if you're like, I need to shed some things and let it go. Perfect time to do that. Now we start to wane in the light, and we have our waning gibbous. So this is like right after the full moon, and it's still about 99% to 51% illuminated. And then the light of the moon has now flipped over to the left side, right? If you're in the northern hemisphere. This is a time of reveals, maybe even some downloads. We're still maybe in that area of release. But this moon can also be sharing of inner wisdom. If you were divining and doing ancestry work and doing all this intuitive work in the full moon and you got those downloads, the waning gibbous moon is a perfect moon to utilize when you're about to share that inner wisdom, right? Because we don't just keep that to ourselves, we share that outward, unless this is something very specific to you. The last quarter, okay, so the last quarter phase is approximately 50, no, I'm sorry. The last quarter phase is exactly 50%. And this is obviously the counterpart to the first quarter, right? So all the light is on the other side and it's right at 50%. So if you are working, this is again a good moon to work in association with balance and crossroads. This is also surrender, doing any kind of uncrossing rituals. This is working with the subconscious specifically, because this is seen as below the line work. This is like the behind the scenes work. This is where you're internally processing things, whatever downloads you got, right? Whatever inner wisdom you receive. This is your organization skills. This is your research time. So whenever you're researching things and you feel you're at a lull, the last quarter moon is a good moon to utilize. Then we have the waning crescent. Okay, so the waning crescent, remember, is about 45% to 1% illuminated. This time is good for clearing out, banishing, cleansing, even cleaning, okay? Cleaning your space physically and internally. This is when you are diving deep and going really deep within, okay? The waning moon is like that growth around that internal work that you did. So if you think of like that full moon, right, it's full of light. As it's starting to fade, we can start to process and connect with the self more deeply. It's like the hermit card, right? In tarot, the hermit is going into the cave. We're coming from the outside into the depths. So this is where you can utilize the waning crescent, as your inner knowing is growing. So meditations would be great for this, even like journaling, like brain dumping. This is a great time to do that, to actually connect with the land and the spirits around you. This would also be a great time to look up at the constellations in the sky. I use an app. It is not, I don't have it with me because I mean, I'm never, getting any kind of promotion on this, right? But there's apps out there where you can go out and put your camera, the phone up to the sky, and it'll tell you the constellations. And that is actually really, really good time to do that, to connect. And if it's a really clear night, maybe you can even see Venus, Mars, Saturn, and really connecting with the other planets around the moon. And now we go into the dark moon. So this is traditionally the end of the cycle, right? The dark moon. The moon is on its last 3 days. So between 27 to 29 days old. I don't know if I said that earlier before, but that's about as long as it takes, right? Yeah, I did, because that's when we have like our super moons sometimes and our micro moons. So this time, traditionally, is a time for release. This is a time for deep inner rest and even physical rest, turning inward. This is the void, y'all. Oop, hit my microphone. This is the void. This is where you can actually connect out. So if you are one that does a lot of dream work, if you also do, what am I looking for? You do a lot of the like, you have a lot of vivid dreaming, you lucid dream. This is a good time to start asking for messages in your dreams, but you can do that all the time. But I know that if you're astral projecting, that's the word I was looking for, this would be a great time to do so. Um, this is also a time for acceptance. This is death, so endings, okay? Banishing, great time for cord cutting. Great time. And honestly, peace and acceptance, especially that peace, being at peace, accepting. Because whatever seeds you may have planted at the new moon and maybe they didn't come to fruition, this is a time, even like the waning crescent or the last quarter, we can start to maybe see where, and I never like this term, like, why didn't my spell work? Well, this is a time for that reflection. And maybe it wasn't exactly that time or there's, you know, pieces that are moving on that chessboard. Sometimes when we don't get exactly what we want because we think that's what's best for us and we don't receive it, it's either because we are deserving of something better that's coming or it was a protection. So, as you look at the dark moon, because there's nothing there, right? It is dark, it is the void. This is a good time for you to envision what you truly, truly want, right? And when you're envisioning it, you're not just seeing it. See how it makes you feel, how it impacts you as a person out in the world, right? It impacts your work, it impacts you with your close circles. What does that mean? What does it feel? Do you feel in alignment with it truly? Or is it just something because the ego really wanted it? So as you go forward, maybe you um, are starting to maybe moon map, right? And you maybe want to learn how to live in moon time because again, um, the Gregorian calendar is not the traditional calendar. Reason being, like, if you go back a few episodes where I'm like, okay, January is not the time where we are new year, new me. We're still in the dead of winter. It makes no sense. That's why so many people falter, because we're still in hibernation mode. That whole, New Year's resolutions shouldn't come in until springtime where we are actually connected with nature. Duh. I digress. So as you move forward, right? And you're moon mapping because you're going through the phases of the moon. It's a lot to unpack. But I want you to really look up write down or note take what comes up for you. Sometimes it could be some painful emotions that come up to the surface. That's normal. Okay? That's perfectly okay. A lot of times we were told to like push down what brings us joy, pleasure, our creativity, ourselves, because we have to portray, to be an outstanding citizen in this certain way. So when you're starting to unpack all of this, please know that it might be a little draining, either emotionally or mentally. But as you are going through this, you can cast your spells for yourself. Like for the new moon, this is like your health expansion maybe, right? Or maybe you want to cultivate more of that abundance and joy within you. Things that you used to do before that you don't anymore. Look at the days of the week, right? So if you're going to use the waxing moon and it falls maybe on a Thursday, maybe you've been really looking at your finances. That would be the perfect time. Like everything is in alignment. Jupiter is the planet of Thursday, and you're on a waxing moon, right? So that would be a great time to figure out a budget, a savings plan. It doesn't have to align that way, but if it does, right? If you're actually moon mapping, all those little extras can really come in handy. And if you, I've done the magical days of the week in season one, so maybe hop on over there if you're a little bit rusty or don't know what I'm talking about. Same thing with the full moon. Maybe you cast a spell where you're just like, "Ugh, I'm going to take up space. I'm going to illuminate the space. This is who I am. Take it or leave it because this is how I'm going to be." So I'm going to close with, as you move forward, moon mapping. As you move forward, looking up at the moon and seeing its phases, feeling that connection, allowing yourself to connect with that energy. Maybe the energy and messages from your ancestors come through. Follow these phases of the moon. Begin tracking your own energy through these phases, through these rhythms. Maybe you notice on certain phases where you listen more, maybe you breathe more, maybe your um, imagination is tapped in a little bit more on different phases. Remember, water holds memory. Maybe nostalgic memories come through. Maybe you start to shape in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, these are my gifts. Allow the moon to be your anchor. Let it be your teacher. Let it be a mystery because honoring yourself and your experience is such a blessing, really. You are the magic. It's just sitting alongside, yourself, the moon, whatever phase it's in, that energy, and allowing yourself to move forward with it, to sit with it for a little bit, especially on those days that are just, oh my gosh, those days are dragging. It's one thing after another. It's that when it rains, it pours kind of day. Take a pause. I always say just take a pause, put your feet flat on the floor, take a deep breath in, exhale out, drop the shoulders away from the ears. They're not your earrings. Unclench your jaw. And as you ground, as you connect, start utilizing, these little micro routines. What day is it? Is it a Tuesday? That's usually Mars Day. Well, not usually, it is Mars Day. And that's usually a lot of like, that is that go energy. That is, sometimes people are a little on edge. Um, or maybe it's Monday and everyone's like, oh, Monday, hate Mondays. Oh, I hate it. It's terrible. But Monday is Moon Day. So maybe you're doing way too much. That energy should be saved for Tuesday, right? That Mars day, that go energy. And so when in this practice, as you are understanding yourself, understanding the energy around you, this is how we begin to heal from our past, and we're re-emerging, we're rediscovering, we're remembering, we're connecting, especially to our ancestors' practices. It's all within you. It's in your DNA. It's in your bones. It's all within you. You hold it. It's just allowing yourself and reassuring your cute little brain that it's okay. You are safe. All right, gorgeous souls. Um, until next time, I will see you at the crossroads. Don't forget, if you're listening to this in real time, every first and third Wednesday of the month, I host Community Reiki. So if you're listening to this, now would be a great time to pop in, sign up. There's no holds bar. There's nothing where you're committed to anything. Absolutely not. Okay. This is just a time for you to connect. And maybe this is the great time for you to connect with the moon cycle wherever you are in the world. So I hope you're as excited about this moon series. I'm thinking of actually giving some mini spells with each phase, even though I kind of gave it very quickly. I'll take this back and listen, but hit me up with any questions. Maybe this moved you into more questions or fascinations. Hit me up. Don't be shy. And until next time, I will see you at the crossroads. Thank you for listening to this episode of Susie's Enchanted Crossroads. I'd love to hear what resonated with you, so don't be shy. Tap the links in the show notes to send a message or share your thoughts. Make sure you leave a review because your voice helps this community grow and guides others to find this podcast and their magic. Want even more enchantment between episodes? Sign up for my weekly newsletter for rituals, energy tips, and exclusive updates. And don't forget to follow me on my socials on Instagram and TikTok for your daily doses of magic, silliness, and behind-the-scene moments. If you felt a little magic today, share this episode with a friend who might need it. And until next time, I will see you at the crossroads.